Ford once built a Mustang so fast, it could tear through the quarter mile in less than 12 seconds. This insane machine packed a whopping 426 horsepower and almost completely changed the muscle car era. But how did this ambitious project come to life, and why did it never hit the streets? This is the story of when Ford lost their minds and built a V10 Mustang. Ford's Skunk Works team is famous for their secret and groundbreaking projects. Over the years, they've made some wild creations, like the 427 SOHC engine, developed in just 90 days, and the mysterious return of the iconic GT40. But in the early 2000s, they were working on something truly epic. While everyone was busy being excited about the upcoming 390 horsepower supercharged Terminator Cobra, another secret Mustang project was in the works that could have changed everything. Instead of the usual V8, this experimental Mustang was set to have an all-aluminum 351 cubic inch V10 engine. This wasn't just any engine, it was meant to be the new gold standard for Ford performance. If you had a Ford truck in the late 90s or early 2000s, you might remember the 6.8-liter Triton V10 engine, which was basically a 5.4-liter V8 with 2 extra cylinders. But the V10 for the Mustang was completely different. The new Boss 351 project started in 2002, marking the end of the new Edge generation of Mustangs. These Mustangs were based on the old Fox body chassis from way back in 1979, and Ford wanted to go out with a bang. They gathered a team of engineers to create a new V10 engine that could compete with the best. At the time, Ford was heavily invested in their Modular V8 engines, used in everything from Crown Victorias to Mustangs. The 4.6-liter V8 came in 2 main versions, a single overhead cam version making around 260 horsepower, and an aluminum dual overhead cam version used in special Mustangs like the Cobras and the Mach 1s, producing well over 300 horsepower. Ford wasn't willing to spend a lot of money on this experimental V10, so the project had to be done on a tight budget, mostly after work hours. So the engineers got creative. They took 2 aluminum 4.6-liter V8 blocks, cut them up, and stuck them together to create a new 10-cylinder engine. This new engine was 5.8 liters or 351 cubic inches. They did the same thing with the cylinder heads, modifying parts from the 5.4-liter dual overhead cam V8 Cobra R heads to fit the new 10-cylinder engine. The Cobra R was Ford's highest-performing naturally aspirated modular V8 at the time, and it became the donor for the parts for this new V10. Custom-built cams and a crankshaft were also made specifically for this prototype to complete the package. The next big challenge was getting the software right. The new V10 was based on the Mustang's 4.6-liter engine, not the Triton V10, so they couldn't just use the existing V10 control unit. But getting a new one was too expensive. So Ford's engineers came up with a smart solution. They made 2 V10 Triton control units think that they were each only controlling 5 cylinders. The result? An impressive 426 horsepower at 6,500 RPMs and around 400 feet-pound of torque at 5,000 RPM. This was a big deal for a naturally aspirated engine in the early 2000s, especially compared to the 385 horsepower LS6 engine in the Corvette Z06 at the time. With the new V10 engine ready, it was time to test it out. Ford had an old beat-up Cobra R Mustang that was about to be scrapped. It was perfect for this engine swap. The swap went pretty smoothly, and Ford ended up with a working prototype built on the best Mustang chassis they had. The V10 was paired with a 6-speed manual transmission and a rear end with a 3.83 gear ratio for extra grip. When tested, this new Boss 351 could blast through the quarter mile in less than 12 seconds, beating the Cobra R and even the 2003-2004 supercharged Terminator Cobras. In terms of handling, it performed like a regular Cobra R Mustang, which was top-notch for Mustang performance back then. The coolest part was its exterior. If you saw it on the street, you'd think it was just another silver GT Mustang with a few tweaks, like a Cobra R hood and some Celine wheels. But when you heard it rev up, you knew something special was under the hood. Even though it was a low-budget prototype, the V10 engine impressed everyone who drove it, including Ford's top executives. They were so impressed that they wanted to make a bigger prototype, with even more power for future high-performance projects like the Shelby GR1 concept. But sadly, nothing ever came of it. Ford's interest in V10 engines faded in the mid-2000s, making the Boss 351 prototype truly one of a kind. Just imagine if things had turned out differently though. Today's Mustangs already pack 480 horsepower from the awesome Coyote V8 engine. But what if Ford had kept going with the V10? We could have had a 6.2-liter V10 with over 600 horsepower, revving high and delivering amazing performance. The Boss 351 might not just be a cool prototype. It could have started a whole new generation of high-performance Mustangs with exotic V10 power. The V10 Mustang project showed that Ford was willing to push boundaries and try new things. By putting a massive V10 engine in a Mustang, Ford proved they were dedicated to making cutting-edge cars. The V10 Mustang's crazy power and performance captured the imagination of car lovers everywhere. It became a symbol of Ford's originality and left a mark on the car world. While the idea of a V10-powered Mustang seems wild today, it was more believable a few decades ago. Back then, Ford had just introduced their new line of modular engines, including the Triton V10. They were all about delivering the best performance. This chapter in Ford's history makes us wonder what other amazing projects might be hidden in their archives, waiting to be discovered. The story of the V10 Mustang isn't just about an engine, it's about what could have been a groundbreaking step for Ford. The prototype showed what Ford could achieve with limited resources and a lot of creativity. The engineers managed to create a highly capable engine by reusing existing parts and finding clever solutions. They even got two V10 Triton ECUs to work together to control the new single engine. To performance and the excitement it generated, the V10 Mustang never made it to production. Ford decided to not pursue the V10 further, likely due to high costs and the challenges of mass-producing such an engine. But the prototype left a lasting impression and remains a fascinating what-if in the world of muscle cars. Thinking about modern Mustangs with their powerful Coyote V8 engines, it's exciting to imagine what a V10-powered Mustang would be like today. With new technology and materials, a V10 Mustang could have been even more powerful and efficient, setting new performance standards and becoming a legend. The V10 Mustang project shows us the importance of innovation and taking risks. Ford's engineers thought outside the box and challenged the status quo. Their efforts resulted in a prototype that, even though it never went into production, pushed the limits of what was possible. So, what do you think? Would you have loved to see a V10 Mustang, or do you think the V8 is the only engine for a Mustang? Let us know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this dive into automotive history, make sure to click on the next video for more rare cars.